I know it's rehearsed. I know they've been doing this for a long time and everything is scripted, but it's still so cool to see the players all the way up to Sidney Crosby walking up to people's houses and handing them their season tickets. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. Comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates where you found this. It was delivery day, and one lucky family in Coriopolis got to see Sidney Crosby getting out of a car and literally walking up to their front porch. For those who don't know how this stuff works, yes, of course, the families know that a player is coming. They're not told who the player is. There are 14 different players who go out because, you also don't want to have the awkward setting where some really low-level fourth-line guy comes up and everybody who's standing on the porch is looking at each other going, who's this guy? Who's this guy? Who did we get? So what you have is players who are Sid, Gino, Letang. Marcus Pettersson was one of them. Pettersson scene in general was one that was maybe the most heartwarming, with everybody getting together on this family swing on this porch and taking a group selfie of like 4 people ramming into it. Really, really neat. It's a good thing to see an organization that's been doing this for so long and to such great effect not ever take its foot off that gas. Even now, with a new front office, new ownership, a lot of stuff's changed, but a lot of stuff's stayed the same. And in particular, where it applies to the younger generation here, I can't overstate that. If you're a Pittsburgh sports fan of any of our 3 teams, including the Penguins, and you're not in the city, you're not gonna get how beloved this team is. You can turn your nose up at that and say, well, I remember a time 20 years ago when the building was empty, and yeah, okay, great. What else do you remember from 20 years ago? So much has changed since then. So much has grown is probably a better word. Within this team, within the sport, the beautiful sport of ice hockey in our city, the participatory level has gone through the roof. The number of rinks from when I was a kid, there were like 5 total in a 7-county area. 5 total. And now they're everywhere. They sprout like weeds. I mean that in a good way. And kids of all ages are learning how to skate, how to shoot, how to stick handle, how to become good teammates, how to play hockey, which is so important with this particular sport. I think more so than others because it doesn't translate well to TV. It'll never translate well to TV, even if you have a screen that's the size of your living room. It's always going to be tough to pick up that puck unless you've played and you know where that puck is going to go next just based on someone's body motion. You follow what I'm saying? Especially those of you who've played. You know where that puck is supposed to be, even if you don't see it. So anyway, Sid gets to this house, and the season ticket holder, who's been in the fold since 1979, his name is Bill. Sid gets out of the car, and Bill walks right down the little sidewalk there and shakes his hand, and you can tell there's genuine surprise. I'm telling you, I've talked to the season ticket holders who've been on the good end of these things, and the ones who get Chad Ruedel really get Chad Ruedel. No offense, Chad. And they end up being just as happy with the experience because chances are really good that that player is going to try a little extra hard, kind of the way Marcus did. Now, more significant and more serious from the hockey standpoint, Sid had a couple of things to say yesterday in his first public comments since his arrival back into town. This was about how the team felt over the offseason after missing the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's more. I think the motivation just comes from not making the playoffs. I mean, it's a bad feeling when you're watching and you're not in it. And to know we were as close as we were. I mean, it's 1 point basically is the difference, and you know that going in how tight it is. But it's just not fun watching, and that's why we play, is to be in that position. So I think the motivation comes from that. And then when there's turnover and change, I think you just have to be open to it and make sure that we're ready to go. I mean, there's always going to be a learning curve for any new group, but when there's a lot of turnover, that's just part of it.
This was about getting Erik Karlsson.
Yeah, I mean, he's special. He can create a lot back there. Put up 100 points. That's crazy. So, I think just for all the new guys, though, I think you get excited to see them, meet them, and just want to get out there with them and start getting work.
And this was about delivering tickets to Bill.
I think just to meet everybody and thank everyone for their support. It's always different stories, and in this case, Bill said 79, 80. He's had season tickets, so that's pretty cool. So I think it's just a great way for us to show our appreciation.
Never, ever, ever take him for granted, Pittsburgh. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Brian, who asks, DK, will Mike Sullivan scratch Jeff Carter, or will his stubbornness get in the way? Your Daily Shot from Monday stated that Kyle Dubas prefers to see an injection of youth into the roster and lineup. Assuming Lars Eller is your third-line center, you have at least 11 players competing for 5 spots. I cannot fathom a scenario in which Carter is among the remaining best 5 players. Brian, neither can I. Neither can I. I have a hard time seeing Carter as one of the top 8 or 9 best players out of those 11. And if the head coach is so intent upon getting Carter into the lineup, or if it's not his stubbornness, and I think it is, and he's so intent on having a right-handed face-off guy in the equation, I believe that this will be the first case in which you'll see the GM having to exert some authority. Now, I'm going to stop right there, because one thing I try not to do in this line of work, which is, opinion on sports, is to get preemptively angry or happy with a given situation based on a hypothetical. And right now what we have is a hypothetical. Carter is still here. Carter has not been told to go home. They can do that. They'd still have to pay him, but they can do that. So somebody is taking seriously the concept that Carter would still have something left to offer the organization. Now, who knows? Carter eats his Wheaties all summer long, comes in and is flying around like the Jeff Carter of old as opposed to the old Jeff Carter. Look, that would be a pretty nice find. I have no idea how anyone thinks that'll happen, because it didn't happen even sporadically last season. Not to be mean here, but there weren't even occasions of a single game or 2 games in which you said, oh yeah, that looks like him. The previous year there was the return once in a while, once every 2-3 weeks, where you'd say, hey, maybe he just needs a little bit of a kick in the rear or whatever. Last year, it never happened. And given the lack of effort, the apparent, I thought, visible lack of effort at times, I'm not even sure why anybody's trying this, but they are. They are. So, you know what? He's coming into camp. Let him show what he shows. Let everyone else show what they show. And if it comes down to Carter looking like he did last season, you know what? Somebody's going to have to take a stand somewhere. And you're right, it might not be the head coach. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll do another one of these tomorrow.